Hey everyone, welcome. I see folks are starting to join in now. Just give folks a moment to join. As you're joining, feel free to tell us where you're in the chat, where you're joining us from. That's always good to see as the numbers continue to increase. Got our first Austin, Texas. First session this morning, the first one was out of Canada. So let's see how long it takes to get an international location. Denver, all right. A lot of Austin going on here today. I like it. Still see people rolling in, but let's go ahead and get started. And there's our first Canada. A couple took Canada. Welcome everybody. Yeah, feel free again. Continue to add where you're logging in from this morning into the chat. And if you have any questions throughout here, feel free to put them in the Q&A or the chat. Q&A goes directly to the panelists, and chat everyone can see. There's no wrong way to do this. But welcome back everyone to It's a Peer-to-Peer World virtual conference. We're great to be doing this again. Want to go to the next slide. We'll see all the hosts that we're working with today. Oh, first of all, myself, I'm Mark Becker, the founding partner of Cathexis Partners. I'm glad to be the MC for this. I'm great to see all these panelists. You're going to be in for a treat today. Some of my favorite people. Let's move on to the next slide and talk about the hosts for this that make this whole thing possible to be free for your attendance today. So Cathexis Partners, Tatango, Turnkey, Event 360, and Nuclevis all are hosts for this. And we're very happy to bring this to you. If you want to go to the next slide, we also want to give a shout out to Nonprofit Pro, is our media partner helping support and evangelize on our behalf about this conference. And there's the overall schedule. If you haven't signed up for all the sessions, feel free to go back to the website. It's back up again. Sorry if you were trying to access it earlier. We did have some technical issues, but we're back up and running. But also, we will be sending out a link afterwards, an email afterwards with links to all the different recordings. But obviously, you get the most value out of attending these things live and interacting. All of that said, with no further ado, let me hand it off to Kathy and she can take it from here.
Excellent. Thanks, Mark. Really excited to be here with everyone today and, talking a little bit about, defining your mobile strategy, how to make it effective. And so we are joined with two of our special guests. I'm really excited to have both Alzheimer's Association and Roswell Park Alliance with us. So I will let Eric give us a quick introduction.
Hi, everyone. Eric Euler here, Director of Digital Fundraising for the Alzheimer's Association. Excited to be here with you today.
All right.
Karen.
Hi, everybody. This is Karen. I'm from Roswell Park Alliance Foundation, and I am in Buffalo, New York, and we raise money for the Roswell Park Comprehensive Cancer Center up there, and I'm in charge of all our technology websites and everything to do with what we're going to be talking about today.
And both of them have so much experience on mobile and years of programs adopting mobile. So they'll have some really great stories to share with you guys, some really great KPIs and results as you guys are looking at what does success look like, what's a good return on your investment. Again, I'm Kathy Kemp. I'm the CEO and founder of Nuclevis. And I'll tell you a little bit about our company, and then we will dive into the details of why mobile. So Nuclevis provides a mobile app solutions to peer-to-peer programs. And we do believe that mobile is for everyone. It is for small organizations, it's for large organizations. We know that that's where users are. And so we are rolling out different options for organizations to ensure that they have a cost-effective solution for their mobile needs. One of the key things that differentiates us is our service. We provide service as part of our license and really enables organizations to focus on event fundraising versus working on mobile technology. So we are actively working with two of the top 3 peer-to-peer programs here in the US and really excited about some of the results that some of these organizations have had and some of the stats that both Eric and Karen are going to be sharing with us. So I'm going to throw out a question for the chat to kind of get everyone warmed up. We know that we have folks from all different places, a lot of Austin, some Canada. But I'd love for you guys to post in the chat window, how effective do you think your mobile strategy is? So 5, let's assume you are a rock star, you are rocking your mobile strategy. Or a 1, what is a mobile strategy? So if you can add in the chat window, where do you think you lie? 5, you're a rock star. 1, I don't even know what we're talking about. All right, I see a lot of 2s. So it looks like non-existent 1s. All right, so we got a crew here who really wants to learn. I absolutely love that. Awesome. So let's talk about why mobile. And this has actually been, you know, an area that has evolved pretty dramatically. If you look at stats over the last 10 years, you know, mobile has really evolved to be the key platform that users are engaging with, you know, brands, whether it's, you know, on the for-profit side, on the nonprofit side. You know, on average, we're seeing 70% of all traffic coming to websites coming from a mobile device. You know, that is just something you can no longer ignore. And it doesn't mean that you just need a mobile responsive site, which of course we know that that's needed. You also have to think about how are you best going to engage those users. And so the other set that I think is really important is that 88% of time that users are on a mobile device is actually in an app, not on a browser. And so when you're thinking about how to best engage users and keep them with you for longer and keep coming back for more, an app experience is going to be more native in nature and certainly going to give you a greater experience. And then the other stat that, of course, is continuing to grow over time is the amount of time that users are spending in a mobile device on an average daily basis. It's over 3 hours, which is kind of crazy if you think about how much time we're actually on our device when you get your weekly notification of this week, you were up X percentage of time. So this really helps tell us that mobile is continuing to grow and we just can no longer ignore it. So when we think about what is a mobile first strategy, right, you have to start with mobile. It's no longer start with a desktop experience and then go mobile. You actually have to start mobile and then expand. And if this is how they are choosing to engage with your brand, you need to make sure that you're meeting them where they are. You can't force them to go to a specific, you know, platform or location because that's the only thing that you're going to support. It really does put a greater onus on organizations to have a presence in all of these different locations and in different formats and different, you know, platforms, whether it's iOS, Android, et cetera. And so you have to be able to meet those expectations. And that evolution and that innovation is an ever-changing platform, right? It's definitely an environment that's constantly evolving. Whether it's text messaging, whether it's mobile payment types, Apple Pay, Google Pay, you know, you name it, we have to make sure that we are really considering what that entire ecosystem looks like. So what does a mobile first strategy entail when we're thinking about technology? We have a design for your website. So you need to make sure that you're going mobile first, right? That you're not thinking about a desktop view and then going mobile. Mobile responsive emails as well is going to be a huge component because that's going to be, again, where most users are actually looking at your emails. Mobile payments. And then we have text messaging, which of course is, you know, one of the greatest open rates that we've seen. And so many different organizations are talking about that. I know Tatango has a session later today. And then mobile apps, which is where we're going to hone in a little bit of our time today in this session. And what role does that play in terms of peer-to-peer landscape as well as overall fundraising? So we're going to kind of talk about 3 different buckets of, you know, what does these pillars look like in terms of unlocking that mobile potential, right? It's not just have a mobile app or a mobile experience and you're done. You have to be able to do it in a way that's effective. So you need to make sure that you're providing that frictionless user experience. It's that one-click Amazon purchase that everyone is seeking, right? That's the instant gratification world that users are expecting in today's world. And if you don't give that to them, they're likely to go to a different experience, a different organization. 2, what strategies you have for increasing that participant engagement. Keeping them engaged for longer is going to certainly be a key strategy for increasing the donations and that length of time that they're going to be fundraising between now and event date or whatever that fundraising end date looks like. And then last but not least, optimizing efficiency. So how can we use technology in a way that's going to allow us to make a greater impact to our event? So all of these things are going to lead to increasing and maximizing that dollar that we are seeking for our peer-to-peer programs. So I am going to transition over to Eric so he can tell us a little bit more about the Alzheimer's Association, their mobile first strategy, and some of their results.
Kathy? So I wanted to give a little background and share about our journey at the Alzheimer's Association with Mobile First. So as we all know, mobile usage has continued to grow over the past decade from just a tiny audience initially to now over 70% of our web traffic today using a mobile device. And you think about it, in your personal life, how often are you looking up information on your phone versus sitting down at a laptop or a desktop? I know I'm on my phone pretty much throughout the day. We have to continually consider where our participants and donors are as far as visiting sites and receiving communications. And this has now been largely mobile over the last handful of years. So let's talk about our mobile tech stack. So we love to innovate at the Alzheimer's Association, and we like to be the early adopters when it's prudent. But we can't constantly shift our tech platforms as it's resource intensive. It carries some risk with it. But we can't be beholden to legacy tech either. So we're always reevaluating and thinking outside of the box. Also, user experience is always at the forefront of our strategy. So we're always on the lookout for technology that can support us in creating the optimal experience for our constituents and can be flexible enough to grow with our needs. We're constantly evaluating our existing tech, but we're also always on the look for something that is more effective and impactful. So how did we get to where we are today? Well, this all started back around 2012 when the Alzheimer's Association moved their fundraising platform to Luminate Online, and we launched our very first fundraising mobile app. Now, over time, we have continued to improve and optimize mobile viewing and responsiveness for our web and email communications, and that's something that still continues through to today. We have to always consider mobile in all that we do. In fact, we were just talking the other day about how we need to make sure our training resources are even considering mobile first. So in 2018, we added mobile check deposit in our mobile app, which has continued to grow and become a major revenue source for our fundraising events. And I'll dive into some more details about that later. In 2019, we added peer-to-peer text messaging via Hustle. And then in 2020, we did a major refresh to integrate mobile payment options into our donation forms and make sure that that's a seamless user experience. And then in 2021, we had a new first, which was our augmented reality promise garden for the Walk app, Walk to End Alzheimer's app, where you can virtually plant a flower in dedication to someone you honor, a major mission moment for our Walk events, and then plant the flower and view other flowers and dedications in a virtual augmented reality space around you. And performance and growth, and this year we moved our mobile apps to a new platform with Nucleus, thank you, Kathy, built from the ground up with performance and growth at the top of mind. And just 2 weeks ago, we launched our first ever Spanish version of our Walk to End Alzheimer's mobile app as a part of one of our strategic pillars. Now, as a point to the frictionless user experience that Kathy discussed as a pillar before, Google research indicates that over 50%, roughly 53%, of mobile users will abandon a site or app if it takes longer than 3 seconds to load. So our users today expect strong performance and intuitive user experiences. And when considering performance, because we're always thinking mobile first, we need to consider users on much slower connections like 3G and develop solutions to perform even in those scenarios. Also, please consider the mantra, less is more. You want to keep the user experience extremely simple and highly focused. So take a data-driven approach to content, calls to action, and the priority of the features in your mobile app. Focus on the impact that the features will provide and do not overwhelm them with too many options. And finally, consider all of your audience, your young tech-savvy users, as well as your less technology-oriented users. Now, as an example of less is more, here's a walk registration confirmation autoresponder. In many of our recruitment solicitation emails, we try to keep the focus just to one call to action. It's much more effective. But for newly registered participants, we found it more effective to list out the top 3 key performance indicators for a successful fundraiser, to give the registrant a few options on how to get started, but only listing those top 3 successful tips, so it remains highly focused. We also take this practice to our mobile app for messaging. Our push notifications are based on event dates, fundraising milestones, and the roles of the participant, like team captains. Our SMS strategy is to recruit and engage participants in a channel that they prefer. We'll often follow up emails with a text message to be sure we're getting our message across in the channel that they prefer. We even prioritize and simplify our social sharing channels within the app to reduce the noise and focus on just the best performing channels. We mentioned earlier about the importance of being data-driven in your strategy. So with that, you need to be measuring your impact. So what we found when we moved to Nucleavis, we had over 15,000 users install the new app in the last 120 days. We're excited to see where we'll end at the season, as this is still sort of like a midway point for our Walk to End Alzheimer's season. And our mobile app bounce rate is just 20% compared to the average target between 30 and 50%. Now, as far as fundraising results, 23% of our mobile app users made a self-donation through the app, which is our #1 best practice for fundraisers. And 26% of our mobile donations came from the QR code within the mobile app, which is why we feature this first on the fundraise screen. And 20% of our mobile donations came through the mobile app SMS channel, which is why we list it first in our social channel list for sharing messages. We also mentioned the importance of continual participant engagement. So our initial goal is to drive greater adoption rate. We're promoting the mobile app in autoresponders, coaching emails, the participant center, text messages on our website. And you also want to consider a multi-channel marketing approach, including Facebook and Google ads, email, text messages, and phone calls. Now remember the phrase, if you build it, they will come. That's simply a myth. You must get the word out there and get the word out everywhere. And we're super excited about our new augmented reality promise garden. Nucleavis developed a beautiful and engaging mission moment for those at home or unable to attend our events in person, or just leading up to an event and they're looking for something else to do within the mobile app. So our app users can plant and dedicate a flower based on the impact that Alzheimer's and dementia has had on them. And then they can plant it and they can view other flowers rise up from the ground and read the dedications that were made there by others. And we have some 3D branded elements in the background as well, and it even has a way to take a photo of the augmented reality space to share on social channels. We absolutely love this feature, and so do our participants. So looking at the data, our average mobile engagement per user is 11 minutes, 55 seconds versus a little over 4 minutes in 2021. We average 7 sessions per user, so they keep coming back for more engagement. And 12% of our mobile users dedicated a flower in our augmented reality promise garden. And for fundraising, mobile app users raised 145% more than those that did not use the mobile app, which is astounding. And we're seeing a 19% increase year over year in mobile fundraising revenue since moving to Nucleavis. And finally, I wanted to mention one of our greatest revenue channels in recent years, which still amazes me that this channel has grown year over year since 2018 when we first launched it, and that is the mobile check deposit. This is just like the banking apps where you can scan the front and back of the check, verify the information, and click to immediately process the check. And this allows us to process checks much more efficiently across the organization and provide instant gratification for our donors and participants to credit their fundraising total in real time. And this feature has been a major game changer for our overall organization, including processing time, like not having to mail in checks, customer service, as it's easier to track down those checks, and prevents checks from quote unquote getting lost in the mail for whatever reasons that may be. So what kind of impact has this made? We've processed over 47,000 checks in the mobile app just this last year, totaling over $11 million. And that number has grown every single year, and we expect even greater results this year as well. Now, this greatly reduces staff time across the organization, impacting our field staff as well as our donor services and finance teams. And this allows event staff to ensure the donations are received at the bank and minimize mishandling of the checks. This also allows us to much more quickly register participants via offline registration forms. And it provides the participants with instant gratification, as mentioned earlier, when they see the gift immediately appear in their thermometers, and it also helps with reducing customer service inquiries. So thank you for your time. I hope you found some useful tips in listening to our mobile first strategy at the Alzheimer's Association. And now I'm going to hand it over to Karen to share about the experience at the Roswell Park Alliance Foundation. So Karen.
Thank you, Eric. Wow, you guys do some amazing stuff. I'm always learning from these things. Kathy, you said in the beginning what level of rock star you are, what level I am not. I would never classify myself as 5 rock star because there's always more to learn. And just learning more about some of Eric's stuff is why we're all here. So here again, I'm at Roswell. We are not a national organization like Alzheimer's. So I'm not sure all the different people that are on our peer-to-peer world session today, but if you're on a smaller organization like myself, you can still be mobile forward. So we've had a key strategy as well to keep our participants mobile focused and meet them where they are, as both Kathy and Eric have said. We've an early adopter of mobile apps for our peers through our peer-to-peer program starting in 2014 for our Ride for Roswell. We went through one app company. That company got bought up, was not great with service, went to another one who went bankrupt. Then I went with Blackbaud. Then I went with another one. Now I'm with Nucleavis. So I have a few different apps, but we always knew it was important for us to kind of keeping that forward focus. We also moved to TeamRaiser, but in 2016, because we knew that Sphere was not going to be a mobile responsive site as that was being phased out. And so we needed to make sure that we could do that. When we moved over, we immediately worked with our partner Cathexis to make sure all our participant centers were mobile friendly. And this was before we even had PC2. So again, constantly thinking about the different ways that we can be mobile for all our peer-to-peer programs. All of our TeamRaisers currently have some form of a mobile app as we continue to forward, and we have a variety of TeamRaisers. Some that can raise almost 6 million, and then others that might have like 500,000. So there's different programs. Some have bigger budgets than other ones, but we try to make sure we have a mobile app for all of them. Go ahead. Yeah. So as Eric has said, app promotion is key. You can't just have an app and people will find it. You have to market the apps to the participants. They will never find it on their own. You have to give them those links right to the App Store, right to Google Play. We have it multiple channels. We have it on our website, our coaching emails. We put it in our email footers. Also, make sure it's in your participant center. We have a widget or an ad kind of HTML code where if they log into their participant center on their phone, they will be presented with an ad that says, get the app. You know, the beauty of having a mobile app versus just your participant center on your phone is that it uses the built-in functionality of connecting with your contacts so they can text or they can email or they can, etc. They can get their contacts right there. Incentivize. We've had contests where, you know, if you get a donation on your app this month, you'll be entered in a contest, or whoever gets the most donations on their app. You know, there's different ways you can incentivize the use of your apps. Not everybody's going to do it, and that's okay. Even if you have a different percentage of people using the app, it's still going to rate high for you and show results. As here. So this is specifically just one of our apps. This is our Ice Cycle event. Our app is called My Ice Cycle. It is our spinning event. It is about 1,000 participants. Last year was our first year for using that for Nucleavis. It's a younger crowd. It's about 25 to 35 is the average age, female oriented. They had a quick 38% app adoption, which is a high adoption rate for our app programs, and 80% higher average raise. So again, this is the fundraising minimum for this event is $200, but the people that use the app had 80% higher raise. Again, it's like, it helps. It completely helps to keep your fundraising totals higher. And look at that 14% higher average gift. I believe, I don't have a slide for this, but I believe QR code was also the highest rated way that donations came in, and then SMS texting was next. Facebook was in there, etc. But those two were the highest. But yeah, mobile impact is real, as it says here on the slide, and helping you increase your fundraising. And that's what we're all about. I do have additional apps besides the Nuclevis one. For Empire State Ride, that's our endurance ride event. We have a high fundraising minimum of $3,500. And that's a ride. The riders actually start in New York City and end in Niagara Falls a week later. So you can imagine that is a specific type of participant. And because they have a high fundraising minimum, they are working all angles. That has over 61% app adoption. So again, they use that incredibly. And it's also more of the baby boomer crowd, older executives, because they can take off a week. They can also raise that much money. So, but they use that app tremendously and to keep moving. And that's also linked in with their Strava and everything like that. So again, different apps, but it's still huge adoption rate. That also has the check processing. We do not do 47,000 checks per year. That's crazy. But it has become much more efficient. And again, the check is not lost in the mail and it works. It's an amazing feature. And I just wanted to keep bringing up a couple other things that we do for ESR, which are not necessarily peer-to-peer focused, but we have a Track Central app. That is an app that we make mandatory for our riders to use when they're on the road. Again, they're riding their bike from New York City to Niagara Falls, and we need to keep on top of them. Our logistics and operation team needs to know where those riders are. So this actually tracks them on their route. So if they veer off the route, we can go find them. So we can find some lost riders. We also have all our rides, and this is for even our day ride, the ride with GPS routes. Just think about all the things that they can use. And again, these are 2 other additional apps, but they get a high percentage. I think the Track Central, we say mandatory, but I think about 90% actually had it on their phone and were using it. So think about all of that, not just the peer-to-peer fundraising aspect. Then as I said, I have a variety of team raisers. One of them, again, we're a Blackbaud, so I call them team raisers, our peer-to-peer program. We have a few DIY programs. We have a head shaving program. We have a program for our schools. And then we have our traditional, birthday parties, lemonade stands, etc. And we are investigating the Blackbaud's Good Move app to see how the testing of activity tracking works. I have no clear results yet. I've just started. If you're a Blackbaud client, you know that Good Move is really just getting out there. So you have to try your different things. And as kind of like, you're always exploring new technology. And while I work really closely with Nuclevis on a couple of our apps, we wanted to go down this path as well to see how it works. So maybe next year I'll have more information to tell you how it works. Measuring income impact. High minimum fundraising programs, I feel, have always shown for us that they have the highest app adoption and usage, similar to that Empire State Ride. Also, mobile results will vary based on your demographic of your participants. Again, we did really well with our Ice Cycle, which was a different kind of group, but versus our ride, the same age. So like just different things you have to play around. You have to get to know your audience, and you have to understand who's on their mobile phone more than others. So it's very interesting, but regardless, all of those groups are going to continue to rise over the next few years because, as Kathy said, we're on our phones all day. And I am more than 3 hours a day, unfortunately. So not all apps are created equal, but they are all useful. Innovation and technology support is huge compared in different organizations, huge differences, I will say. Some organizations just do not have the support that others. So talk to those people, figure out what's good for you. Service and maintenance. user experience, again, speed, ease of use, features, etc. All of those different things can happen in an app. And so please explore all the different apps out there and what works and what isn't, because they're all, as I said, they're all useful, but they're not all created equally. Oh, I wanted to bring this up. This is not peer-to-peer, but it could be peer-to-peer. We use an app called Let's All Do Good. And I just wanted to remind people that it's, even though it's not a, this is not a fundraising app, think of the whole picture. We have a pediatric program. Again, I raise money for a cancer center. We have a pediatric program, and the manager there was having such trouble trying to get the word about her events for the children and their families. And no one was reading their email. If you can imagine, the parents of a pediatric patient is probably inundated in life and just trying to work, keep the family together and dealing with everything they have to do with their child who is going through cancer. So we found an app, and that's just speaking with them, and we can do different tags based on the different event types. And the push notifications on this app has increased her event sign up so much because it's so much easier for the parents. You can even see on this picture here, puppy yoga, sounds amazing, but they could add it right to their calendar. They can get directions. It's a great little non-branded app that is perfect for us. And I know some people have used it for talking to their peer-to-peer participants or their peer-to-peer volunteers. We specifically only use it for this program, but there's other apps out there too that can help you in your program. So just think about that as you're exploring your mobile strategies. And it's important, I believe both Kathy and Eric said this, it's important to be where your participants are. Email is not the only way to talk to your participants. Somebody told me it's dead. It's not dead. We still have our jobs. We are still going to be sending out emails for a bit, but it's not the only way. You have to engage with them where they are. Social media, on their phones, everything. From calls to registration, events open, time to register, to fundraising tips, logistics information. So obviously these are all logos of different brands that you probably know and see. I'll give you a few examples. Facebook for our endurance ride. We have a specific Facebook group where we communicate just with those riders all the time. And so it's become, we have a few of our riders who are also admins, and they talk from November to July because that's their whole fundraising window. And that is a really, really strong place. And that's where they share information, they share fundraising tips, logistic tips, training, everything. It's perfect for them. Instagram, Ice Cycle, again, that spinning event, the 25 to 35-year-old females is the predominant demographic. We would be nowhere without Instagram with this account. We use all our ads on there. We engage with them. We engage with the participants and our partners on that. Instagram is key for us. Again, they hardly open their email, these people, but they go to Instagram and they probably get all their information from there. That same group, we also text with Hustle. We use Hustle for peer-to-peer, and we're constantly talking to, not constantly, but we're always making sure that we're giving them a hustle, even if they don't reply, because not everybody that age group replies to texts. They don't feel guilty like I do if I don't reply, kind of thing. But that's kind of like Hustle is very important for them to read it. LinkedIn, we use that for, again, our endurance ride. There's the majority of those riders are executives and they're on LinkedIn. We use that as well. We have a push on LinkedIn for Empire State Ride. Again, that's mostly for calls for registration, calls for sponsorship. We want to make sure people know about this event, and so in case they want to be a sponsor. And the Strava, again, that's just bringing in that activity tracking into apps, but also to have a Strava group specifically for Empire State Ride. TikTok, we're not huge TikTokers here, but we do have our bald shaving event. We have a TikTok platform because we kind of have to be. It's all for the kids. And then new this year for Ice Cycle, we actually have a influence an influencer spinner. She's got 2 million followers on TikTok. So guess where we're going to be this year on TikTok? We have to get to her 2 million followers. So again, remember where your participants are and get there. And even if you go in a little bit here and there, you're working really closely with your marketing team and your fundraising team and finding out where our staff is or our people are, our participants are, and be there with them. It gets them more engaged and helps you fundraise and all along the way. So I think, yes, where are we going next? Similar to what Eric said, we need to always be up to date on the latest technologies. We might not be able to adopt them all, but how can we get there? And also figure out for you and your organization, what is the most important? My goals and resources might be totally different than Alzheimer's. So I have to adapt differently from I don't have a personalized app like he does with the flowers, but that's super cool. What do we need to get there? So what is most important for us and what our resources can our handle? Sometimes we wait and see if our decisions change. A few years ago, I was all about the chatbot. I wanted a chatbot. I never got a chatbot, and now I'm kind of moved away from that. I don't know. So, because I also knew it would take so much effort. So you have to make those decisions where you'll get the most return in fundraising, efficiencies, etc. And don't forget to ask what your participants want. Do your participants want check deposit on their phone? They're probably going to say yes, the majority of them. But does your participants care about a chatbot? Maybe they don't. So again, it's working those conversations in. And, I love to be part of technology and all of this fun frontier. And it gives you a focus on the future and the ever-changing landscape. But guess what? It's always changing. And that's the worst thing, and sometimes it breaks. Sometimes I wish I was I could just print a brochure and be done with it. But no, websites break. So you're always moving things along. But it's fun and it keeps your job exciting. That's what I'll say. But again, think about where you're going. You might not be able to do everything, and that's okay. But little changes will really help you along the way. And I think we're back to
Well,
Kate.
thank you, Karen. I appreciate that. All right, so let's talk about some key takeaways and what can you do from here. So as you're thinking and evaluating, your mobile first strategy and identifying what those gaps might be in what you currently are doing, I think as Karen mentioned, we can't do everything, right? We have to just tackle a couple of things at a time and really identify those that are going to make the greatest impact. Eric shared with us that data is everything, right? And so it's really about how do you arm yourself with that information to understand where you going to be able to create the greatest opportunity for your participants and the fundraising for your event. You can't do it all. So again, narrowing down the focus of what's the low-hanging fruit, what is it that is going to make the greatest impact, whether it's participant experience, participant engagement, and being able to quantify that from an ROI perspective. So, how can you use even some of the statistics that we shared here today to be able to monetize and forecast, okay, it's going to cost us X, Y, Z. That might not be in your budget today, but what does the upside look like if you do choose to make those investments? One of the things that, we always talk about is progress is better than perfection. Things are always changing. Nothing is ever done or completed, especially when you're talking software and mobile technology. It's just not static. It's something that's going to continue to evolve, continue to innovate. And so you have to keep thinking about what is this continuous evolution look like, and not think that this is it and we're done, right? It's just constantly changing, and you have to constantly be evaluating. You may already have a text messaging platform or maybe even a mobile app provider, but the question you need to ask yourself is it servicing you today versus was it servicing you X years ago, right? Is it currently giving you the return on investment? Is it costing you a ton of staff time to manage and maintain a relationship or a vendor? And so you have to think about, is this a legacy solution that perhaps you need to start looking at greener pastures? So whether or not you have a solution or not today, you have to constantly be in that evaluation phase. So again, the quick kind of pillars that we talked about at the beginning of today that we want to make sure everyone has as takeaways is making sure you're focused on this frictionless user experience. The easier you can make it, the better. And so what can you do to, just make it available at their fingertips, whether it's text messaging, whether it's a mobile app, the easier, the better. One of the other things, of course, is how do you keep them engaged longer? So again, a mobile app experience certainly is going to be able to do that with a native experience. It's going to be what they're already used to, giving them information that they have at their fingertips. It's a push notification. It's a text message. We know that, if you're looking at an urgent message that you're trying to get to your users, if you're going to send that via email, they may not see it in time, right? If it's an event cancellation or a change to an event or a sense of urgency for a deadline, relying on email alone may not be sufficient. You really need to make sure that you're exploring all of those channels, and certainly those that have the quickest open rate and engagement rate, especially if there's a time-sensitive message that you're trying to get out. And then optimizing efficiencies. I think, check deposit was certainly a great example that Eric shared around, how can you use technology to really help, reduce, some of that staff time, create that instant gratification for users. And all of these different things, this increased engagement is going to lead to increased fundraising and helping you reach your peer-to-peer goals. So with that, we will be opening it up for questions. And I do have 2 questions that I jotted down that came in from the chat. I'm going to throw the first question out to Karen. So Karen, as you have multiple different event programs, some of them in the early stages of the revenue cycle versus very established, like Right to Roswell, how were you able to get buy-in internally in terms of making investments for mobile apps?
I think so we work on the technology side, and I do control the budget for a lot of that stuff, but it's looking at data. So for our big events, right? So we've had them for a while. We've been able to prove that we've had 30% adoption rate and the higher fundraising. So for our smaller events, it's a matter of kind of looking at that demographic. Do we feel that demographic, based on our experience to date, will also use this technology? Do we want to make sure that that's available to them? So for example, for Ice Cycle, that was a new event. We've only been doing it 3 years, and last year was the first year we had the app for it. Because of the demographic of that group, we felt it was so important that we could not have an app. So that was, my director of special events, she was all for it. And so she knew that we needed to make sure that we had that. And so it wasn't as much of we didn't really have to do this huge buy-in, but it was adjusting the budget to make sure that we could. So it was, how do we plan this way and this way so we could, make sure that we have that technology to increase the fundraising, which will help with the budget next year. So, but again, and, there's a couple of our smaller DIYs that I did go with Good Move because I didn't have, part of my Team Raiser thing. So that's where it's kind of like you have to kind of make that game. But we wanted for sure a reliable app that we could rely on for Ice Cycle, and why we went into Clavis. So there is that give and take in that balance. It's working with the management really closely to kind of prove your point. If that,
yeah. And I do love, the strategy that you've taken and making sure that you are trying to provide a mobile app experience for all users. So just because this DIY might be smaller, this is still where they are. So having that app option for them, and maybe growing that program over time, and maybe one day they might evolve. So you want to have something that's a little bit more closely branded, more configurable. But today that's meeting those needs, and you're able to use it as a way to help them also be better fundraisers and hopefully increase the program over time.
Correct. Correct, exactly. You said it perfectly.
Excellent. All right, so Eric, I got a question out for you. So as you have been, evaluating different vendors, you talked about some of the transitions that you've made. What are those key criteria that you've used when evaluating vendors that you're looking to explore? In this case, whether it's mobile or not, that have helped you ensure that your strategy is aligned with the technology.
Yeah, so I think first and foremost, we're looking for that white glove service where they're going to sit down and listen to our needs and understand our needs, and work with us to develop the best possible solution. It's where experience obviously plays a big part. Having modern tech stack is going to be very important for the longevity of picking a solution, but really it's that direct relationship and the willingness to work together to find the best experience together.
Excellent. Well, I think those are all the questions that we have in the chat window. I know you guys all can find us on LinkedIn. We have, again, thank you, Karen. Thank you, Eric, for your time. Again, Kathy Kemp at nuclevis.com if you would like to reach out. Thank you so much for everyone's time, and hopefully everyone enjoys the rest of today's sessions. Mark, I'll hand it over to you.
All right, great job, everyone. And thanks again for everybody. And our next session starts in about 45 minutes. So hope to see you there. Thanks, Kathy, Karen, and Eric. Have a great day, everyone.
Thanks, everybody.